this movement says rightly, 40% of our homeland is something a proper anti-colonialist movement cannot accept. Under any conditions, it cannot accept that 60% of its homeland would be in the hand of a colonialist movement. Then comes the third wave, and you're offered 40%, and I don't have to tell you, you know the story. This, I think that we have to focus on that mechanism, because as I said this morning, the sort of mainstream Zionist approach, and definitely the right-wing Zionist approach, is very transparent. And it's a waste of time in this milieu where we're sitting here together as friends to say to you why the present Israeli government represents a kind of Zionism that we should not accept and detest and abhor. That's an easy one. Even the Kadima Likud government or the Kadima Labour government that did the 2006 second assault on Lebanon or the Gaza massacre, it's not something we should waste time on explaining why this is a bunch of criminals and so on, and we should oppose them and so on. I think our real problem are not these people, because these people would do the job for us at a very heavy price, I know, a very heavy price. But they would do the job for us, I mean, by the fact that they are not sophisticated, it's not complicated to explain why they are criminals and why their policies are war crimes or crimes against humanity. Our problem comes, and this is the Obama, with this I would end, this is the Obama administration. This is the left wing in Germany. This is the good people on the left in the United Kingdom and even in Scandinavia. Our problem would be that people would say, we want to replace the present horrible Israeli government with an Israeli peace government. On the left, on the Zionist left. And the Zionist left would come to the podium and say, yes, forget about the bad days of the Likud, of the right wing. We are not like them. We want a smaller Jewish state without Arabs, not a big Jewish state without Arabs. And they will get the Nobel Peace Prize. First thing that they will get will be the Nobel Peace Prize. And the second thing that they will get the immunity, because exactly, unlike the people on the left and the center and the right in Israel, they don't talk much. They do. They do. They don't talk much. They will do exactly what this government is doing in Eastern Jerusalem. They will do exactly what this government is doing in the Nakab and in the Galilee. And they would continue the same policies about the right of return and about reconciliation. They'll do the same, but they will talk, as you know, they will talk in a different language. They will talk the discourse of peace. They have no problem in doing it. They are so good at it. They have been doing it for 60 years. They kicked out people and said that there's no one there on the other side to talk to. And when there was someone to talk to, they killed them, and then they said there's no one to talk to. These are the kind of people that we have to focus, and with this I will end, for only one good reason. Because if you accept my analysis, that the Israeli rainbow of idea is like a Scottish pyjama. You know what a Scottish pyjama is? With one stripe. They're very economical, the Scots, so they have only one stripe. This is the Israeli rainbow of ideas within the Zionist frame of mind. And this is not easy to accept, I know, because there is a show of pluralism. There is a charade of a serious debate. The Israelis really perfected this charade of the debate when it came to Gaza. The painful Israeli inner debate about taking out the settlements into new kind of settlements near the Gaza Strip, where they talked about, when a settler said that she was put in a 5-star hotel in Ashkelon, and it was near the railway station, so it reminded her of Auschwitz. This is the kind of thing that would be most difficult to fight in the social democratic milieu of Germany and of Europe. And in order to fight it properly, we have to go back to the basics. And to come back to what I said this morning, and with this I would end. I really think that you don't have to feel at all timid frightened by making a very basic human distinction between political organizations and human beings. I'm sure in any other case in the world you do very easily this distinction. You don't feel that you have violated any terrible taboo by saying that the political organization does not represent people. When you talk about Myanmar and you talk about the Burmese people, you don't think that you are talking about the same thing. When you talk about all kinds of other regimes that you don't like, you know that you are not talking generally about the people who live there. Israel is not different. Israel is not different. And it's okay, you know, I was asked I was told that Jeff Alper was saying that there were some good Zionists and bad Zionists and so on. There are no good Zionists. It's an oxymoron. There can be good Zionists. There can be well-meaning Zionists, I accept. There can be well-meaning Zionists, but it's like well-meaning racists. There are like apartheid people with good intentions. Some things, language, as I think Ali said to us, that language tolerates everything. But that doesn't mean that everything that the language tolerates makes sense. So, yes, there are people living in Israel who are nice, generous, peace-loving, Jewish, progressive, whatever you want. But as long as they are loyal to this ideology, the way they explain to you their ideology, of course, there isn't an objective definition, but the way they understand it, which is the way that they educate their children. This is the way in which they understand the role of the army and the military in their society. And this is the way as they accept for granted and without any question the basic decisions of their political and military elites. When you take this into account, there is nothing positive about it. And you should negate it and not accept it in its totality. Not play with it. And you are doing a very important, or you are carrying out a very important mission for the people themselves. And I tell Israelis whenever they want to hear me that they don't know what they are missing. I know. I said, you don't know what you're missing when you be deprogrammed. I told them how long, and this is my book, Out of the Frame, I told them how long it took me to be deprogrammed. And I said, you don't understand the sensation. If you think you need LSD, or you need to drink a lot, or to hear the rabbis, or whatever makes you kick in Israel, you don't know what you're missing. You can do the trip that I did, and you will feel so good with yourself, like very, very few people around the world. I'm serious about it, because once you liberate yourself from an ideology that was sacred in your eyes, and made you do things that you regret, once you are on the other side of the mirror, you feel something that you almost feel fortunate to be able to experience such a journey. I think very religious people maybe sometimes experience it when they have an epiphany or revelation. I'm not very religious, so I don't know what it means, but I know what it means in my case. And so if you have any problems with telling Israelis that they should stop being Zionists, including those you like in the Zionist left camp, tell them to walk the extra mile, whether they are rabbis for peace, or DJs for peace, or transvestites for peace, or I don't know what, milkmen for peace. Israelis have all these they like to fragment the peace movement. They like to fragment the peace movement, makes it easier for them. Instead of saying, we are anti-Zionists for peace, for instance. That would be the genuine Israeli movement for peace. If you tell them, believe me, you are sending them on the best journey in their life. Thank you. Let me say also something about the point that Haider made about the paradigm of parity. This paradigm that we used to call it kissing cousin industry. I think that it's very difficult, but this is a very important group of Europeans we have to address. Also in America, we have a similar problem. Very good initiatives, very good people who under the mesmerizing, intoxicating, and poisonous atmosphere of Oslo believed and also threw a lot of money into this idea of people-to-people dialogue between Israeli Jews and Palestinians. The intention was good. I don't think the intention was bad. I think people really wanted people to talk about peace while the politicians were talking about peace. But in a colonialist situation, peace is not important. In a colonialist situation, what is important is the end of colonialism. And the only dialogue you need is the dialogue between the conscientious group within the colonialists with the colonizers to end colonialism. Because the end of colonialism liberates not only the colonized, but also the colonizers. I think it will take time for this paradigm to shift, and we have to be patient. And I think one can only lament the millions and millions of euros that the EU has thrown into this people-to-people project, and hope that some of that money would now be diverted to the anti-colonialist struggle against the occupation, the colonization, dispossession. The second point is about the academic, I was asked about historical narrative. I think, again, this is nobody's fault, it's my fault as well. We all talked some nonsense in our lives, including myself, you won't believe it. And we felt that there was a so-called new history in Israel, and that there was an intellectual movement of historians who wanted to change the Israeli narrative, and it nearly changed the Israeli narrative and the educational system. There was an attempt. There was definitely a goodwill, as in the previous. I think writing by professional historians like me on 1948 helped to happen. And this is that the community that produces knowledge, academics, journalists, in the cultural milieu, have definitely shifted dramatically from a period where they regarded the Palestinian narrative as propaganda and fiction to regarding the Israeli propaganda, the Israeli narrative, the Zionist narrative, as pure propaganda. Even in the most important academic centers in the world, this is now the case. And I think this is very important. This is one should say, the late Edward Said predicted that this is going to happen in a famous article in 1982, The Permission to Narrate. He said, we the Palestinians at least can win this struggle. We cannot win many other struggles. And I think this struggle was won. Any serious academic in the world that talks about or repeats the fabrication of the Israeli narrative of Palestinians running away voluntarily, or that the land was empty, is regarded as not a serious academic anymore. And this is something that was achieved by the good cooperation between Israeli and Palestinian and other people who knows the truth and are truthful people. Now, the final point about the young generation, I think it's a good, I'm very happy that this question was raised. I would like to mention that whereas the Israeli academia is totally in the hands of the regime and are totally obedient to Zionist ideology, and that's why they should boycott it until tomorrow. I'm using a Hebrew language phrase which you don't understand probably, and also the translator didn't understand. They should be boycotted. Forget what I said about tomorrow. Tomorrow and the day after. Within the civil society in Israel, there are young NGOs such as New Profile, such as Anarchists Against the War, such as Soldiers Against Silence. There are a group of young Israelis who are beginning to see the light and understand the destructive nature of Zionism and are willing to risk their life and their freedoms to carry out this struggle. And I think that they are the ones who need the boycott and divestment sanction campaign no less than the Palestinians. Because if you tell Israel that what it's doing is immoral and unethical to the point that it forces you to boycott them, it means that these young people are not insane when they say the same thing.
So I think we have a future peace movement in Israel. Not the people who get all these prizes in Israel. Not the kissing cousin friends of ours. But the real peace movement in Israel is in the making. It's an anti-Zionist, it's an anti-colonialist, and it's a pro-secular democratic state movement that is growing by the day and would grow if the pressure from the outside would be genuine, focused, and effective.